Window Curtain Installation Guide, Ishii, Materials Required. In addition to covering windows, curtains can also be used to frame a space, regulate the amount of light that enters a room, provide privacy, and give a layer of elegance or softness to a space. Installing curtains on your own is perfectly possible if you have the correct attitude, a few fundamental tools, and a clear understanding of how to measure, drill, and align hardware. This is true regardless of whether you are doing it to outfit a living room that has recently undergone renovations or merely to update an old pair of drapes. Let's go through the entire process together, paying particular attention to the kinds of information that are sometimes neglected in the practical realm. Before you get started, here are some things you will need to accomplish. To begin, let's talk about the supplies. Naturally, you will require your real curtains, which should ideally have been chosen and purchased according to the dimensions of your window. Ignore any guesses here. The width of the window frame and the height from where you want the curtain rod to sit, often several inches above the frame, down to the desired curtain length, whether that is just below the sill, to the floor, or somewhat puddled, are the two measurements that you need to take. The curtain rod should then be selected. It is important to ensure that it is sufficiently wide to reach a few inches beyond both sides of the window to allow the curtains to be pushed entirely apart. Be wary of very inexpensive rods, as they frequently sag in the middle if they are not supported, even if the majority of rods are adjustable. Mounting brackets, screws, and an occasional wall anchor should be included in the hardware package. Nevertheless, it is advisable to have additional wall anchors on hand, particularly if the wall type you are working with is not typical drywall. First step: taking measurements and making plans. An accurate measurement is the first step in a successful curtain installation. You will need to take a measurement of the entire width of your window and then add approximately 6 to 12 inches on each side so that the curtain rod appears to reach beyond the frame. Because of this, your curtains will be able to open entirely without obscuring a portion of the window, which will hence enable more light to enter. When it comes to fashion and function, height is relevant. Curtains that are hung at a ½ inch to 1 inch above the floor are an excellent choice for achieving a contemporary and uncluttered appearance. The cloth should be allowed to puddle by 2 or 3 inches if you want to get a more luxurious or romantic result. You might stop at or just below the windowsill if you are in a room that is small, or if there are radiators located below the window. Mounting the brackets makes up the second step. Coming up next is drilling. If your walls are made of drywall and you are not pressing against a stud, you will require wall anchors to prevent the brackets from pulling out under the weight of the curtains. The first step is to drill pilot holes at your markers. To install the brackets, first insert the wall plugs or anchors, and then use a screwdriver or power drill to screw them in place. Because a misaligned bracket will cause the rod to sit in an asymmetrical position, which will be seen as soon as you hang your curtains, it is important to take your time with this step. If you have a rod that is greater than 6 feet in length, you might require a center bracket in order to keep it from sagging. The temptation to avoid this step is strong, particularly if you are looking for a clean appearance with no interference from the middle. But if you are hanging heavy blackout drapes, you will be grateful to yourself in the future for the additional support. The next step involves preparing the curtains and hanging them. Make sure to press or steam your curtains for a few minutes before you hang them around the window. As soon as they are removed from their packaging, even costly panels have a poor appearance. You can either use a handheld steamer or iron them on a low setting, depending on the type of fabric you're working with. This seemingly insignificant action greatly enhances the overall appearance. Attach the curtains to the rod by sliding them onto it, either directly through the rod pocket or by using grommets, tabs, or rings, depending on the type of the curtains. Certain configurations make use of curtain clips or hooks, particularly for designs that are pleated. Following the installation of the panels, the rod should be safely inserted into the brackets. The cloth should be adjusted so that the folds fall in a natural and even manner on both sides. Take a step back. Conduct a symmetry check. You should give the brackets a light tug to make sure they are secure and the rod is level. Continue to make adjustments to the fabric alignment. Now, the entire room will have a different sensation. It will feel more complete and more under control. Enhancements that are optional and advice that is practical. You might want to think about installing a liner or making use of a double curtain rod in order to stack sheer and blackout panels if your window is exposed to the sun or a streetlight. In order to provide privacy while allowing for the diffusion of sunshine, sheer curtains and blackout curtains are indispensable in media rooms and bedrooms. It is important to ensure that the rod and brackets are resistant to rust in regions with high humidity, such as restrooms. Rods should be adequately secured in children's rooms, and tiebacks should be considered if they can be controlled safely. In addition, curtain cords and long puddles should be avoided in houses that have small children or pets, since they could present a potential safety risk. Problems that are realistic and possible solutions. Installations do not always go off without a hitch. When you drill into the wall, there are instances when the wall collapses, the anchors do not hold well, or the brackets do not line up properly. Don't freak out. Fill up the hole, wait for it to dry, and then remeasure. If it is necessary, use wall plugs or toggle bolts that are more robust. Additionally, whether you are working with brick or concrete, you will require a masonry bit in addition to patience. When you order curtains, there are occasions when they do not completely block the light or do not hang in the manner that you had envisioned. Consider adjusting the rod a few inches higher or lower before giving up on anything. The visual proportions can be corrected with a surprisingly minor height adjustment. Some concluding remarks. A finishing touch that completely transforms. The process of installing curtains is not difficult, but it should be done with accuracy. When done well, it brings a room together, has the effect of reducing the acoustics, and provides the sense that the design was intelligent and intentional. A ladder, a steady hand, and a willingness to take your time are all that are required. You do not require the assistance of an expert. Do some practice with an old curtain or a spare sheet if you are confused about how to proceed. As much as you trust the level, you need also trust your site. However, keep in mind that this is not only hardware, it serves as a form of protection for the light and life that come into your home. Would you be interested in a printed version of this tutorial, or one that is adapted to a particular kind of curtain, such as one that is fixed on the ceiling or one that is designed for bay windows? If you found this content helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts.